Blue Lock dropped a monster chapter. We get some insight into Igo's thoughts and his training with Kunigami, not to mention Barou actually roasting Isagi out of nowhere. But trust me, there is a ton more stuff, so get ready. Alright, starting off this chapter, also called Choice for the Future, we start off by seeing Igo's special letter to Kunigami, where Igo told him that the answer lies in battle, telling him to become the ultimate physical combat warrior. And with that, we also see him going wild as he is boxing. We then get back to Igo, who explains that the special training that he gave him focused on honing the sense of spacing needed for combat sports, as well as building the sort of physique that will keep him on his feet in physical collisions. Igo looks intense, as he says that those are useful assets for a striker, of course, but they'll be weapons that will make him excel in any position. We then see Henri by his side, who says that it's why Igo swapped in Kunigami as a defensive midfielder in this half. We then see the ball soaring high into the air, as Igo continues and says that it's right, telling Henri that by using him at the same time as Shidou and Barou, they made it easy to counterattack since they have so many players on offense. That's exactly why, however, in this match, Kunigami will use his body as a shield to interrupt France's counters, calling him their defensive tank, and with that, we finally see Kunigami, who lands back on the ground, and he looks so insanely cool and he has so much aura. We also see the spectators being super ecstatic over Kunigami as they call out to him and compliment him. With that, we then get back to the ball, which we can see has landed in Ryu's hands, who is right in a battle with Leiden. But even then, Ryu looks super determined as he says that he will keep it going. We then see the commentators, who say that the tables have turned as Blue Lock Japan is making its counterattack. With that, we head over to Isagi, and we also saw Ryu passing the ball over to Hiyori. Anyway, back to Isagi, who is running on the field, and he thinks that Igo's plan is working. He has his metavision eyes out and ready, as he thinks that KARASU is still the center of their attacks. That will let him focus on moving behind the main formation and striking the enemy's weak spots, explaining that this is a two-sided strategy. Igo devised for them to let them strike back in the second half, and I just have to come in here and say that this is so sick. We then get to Hiyori, who tells Ryo to run as he passes the ball. Ryo gets the ball and traps it flawlessly before telling Hiyori that he can leave it to him. We then get back into Isagi's brain as he says that they are keeping up with France better than the first half, and that it's wearing on their opponents, which we sure can see is true as we see Leiden, who is breathing heavily, and says that this back and forth is rough, but he does have Gabin under him, who tells Leiden to keep sticking to him at all costs. With that, we get back to our main boy, Isagi, who explains that there is still one thing nagging at him, but that will have to wait as we get to Hugo, who comes by and says, "Hello Ryo," and tells him that he won't get away. Ryo looks annoyed just then, and tells Hugo that he has good eyes before calling him butterfly lashes, which honestly goes pretty hard. We then move back to Isagi again, who continues his last thought and says that he still can't visualize how to beat Hugo. He starts to look pretty worried as he says that if he became this team's second best and totally focused on passing, it would get easier to attack. However, he would just be doing what Hugo described and trying to be suitable for the sake of victory. On top of that, he knows that it's the role that Igo doesn't want him to play, saying that if he is going to live as the world's best striker, then he has to find a new theory to beat Hugo with his own goals. And this right here fires me up so much. We finally have the devouring Isagi back in action, as he is hungrier for a goal than ever. But then, out of nowhere, Barou comes by him and tells Isagi that he isn't himself, as Barou can't smell a goal from him at all. Barou looks at Isagi with a disappointed facial expression, as he tells him that according to Igo's orders, the plan was for him to exploit his moves to score goals. But right now, he is just useless, telling Isagi that in this match he isn't the king. And coming from Barou, it's pretty wild hearing that, since he is the king. Hey, it's Natsu mid-editing here, and I just wanted to pause the video to ask you to subscribe if you haven't already, and while you're already down there, why not leave a like as well? After Isagi has been lectured by Barou, he looks to be super shocked as he wonders if Barou can instinctively sense how weak his vision of the future is. Just then, Barou starts to sprint away in full force as he says that it's time to find a new prey, and that he is guessing that he is on his own to find someone worth devouring, and he looks super intense as he says that. After that, we see a crow in the sky, and with that, we know whose time it is, since we see KARASU standing in the middle of the pitch, and he thinks that he and Isagi are alike. He thinks that they have the same soccer intelligence, and that they came to Blue Lock with the same worries. Just like Isagi, KARASU himself wanted to be a striker, but there was an uncomfortable gap between his dream and the roles he got stuck filling. Realizing that these desires don't match his capabilities, and he knows that better than anyone. He is best at manipulating the ball in the midfield and setting up balanced attacks, and he is more suited to be a midfielder. Even so, he couldn't give up the dream of being a striker, which is why he fought so hard to stay in Blue Lock. But still, bit by bit, the gap between him and Isagi has grown, and before he knew it, Isagi was the striker in the spotlight. It pisses KARASU off, but he got stuck in the shadows. He has been wondering, what does Isagi have that he doesn't have? Even if he manages to hang on, when is he going to see the light of day? KARASU continues and thinks that he is grateful to Ego for bringing him to this stage. However, does he even need Ego's philosophy anymore? He can't help wondering that. That's also why Hugo's words struck so deep and made sense to him, as this is Blue Lock's limit with Isagi as number 1. We then get back to the game, where KARASU has his meta-vision eyes out and calls out to Ryo for a pass. Ryo thanks KARASU as he then passes him. KARASU traps the ball and thinks that if he is second best, then he can change Blue Lock. We also see Hugo from the side, who looks at this, and he says that KARASU is really good. KARASU then starts to look super serious, and says that he doesn't think that this method is the complete answer, but for now, it's a choice for the future, where he doesn't have to give up his dream of being the world's best striker. After that, we see Aiku with a smirk, who calls it a nice change-up. We also have Barou, who tells him to just pass him, and of course, his partner in crime. Hiyori, who tells him to go for it and calls him a wandering crow. We then get back to KARASU, who is starting to somehow transform into some sort of crow beast, as he thinks that if he can create a goal here, then he can beat Isagi, thinking that he will turn it all around and then make Blue Lock his own team. With that, he passes the ball right in between a bunch of the French players, and Isagi also sees this and calls it an impeccably timed forward pass. We then also see KARASU again, who has a devious smile as he calls out to Isagi and says that his secret weapon is Shidou, the demon that Isagi can't handle. With that, the ball lands in the hands of Shidou, who gets a huge smile as he says that his egotism is ready to burst, which, yeah, sure, go off. Anyway, the next chapter will be called Seizing the Crown. I know I said in the leak video that it would be called Reunion. However, apparently it was a mistranslation. That's also lucky since Seizing the Crown sounds so awesome. However, I am a bit confused since Barou is the king, so it should be about him, but I have a bit of trouble seeing it. But we only have to wait 1 week, luckily, since this is not a break week, which is just amazing. Now, in this chapter, I loved that we got a much more in-depth explanation of Kunigami's training. Even though it wasn't like a ton of mind-blowing stuff and most of it you could figure out yourself, it was still cool to learn how he has been training and just what Ego's thoughts and ideas for Kunigami actually are. A lot of people I've seen have said that Kunigami has been made into strictly a defender, but that just isn't true. First off, Kunigami's training was both for offensive and defensive purposes. It's just this game, as Ego explained it, that Kunigami will have to act like a sort of shield due to both Barou and Shidou causing chaos up on the field, and that they strictly need someone strong who can help out in the back due to the fact that they are going to get hit by a ton of counters. Also, it might be just me. However, from the looks of it, I don't think that it looks like Kunigami currently hates acting like a sort of shield or defensive tank. Now moving on to Isagi because he said some pretty interesting things in this chapter. He was talking about the whole being the world's second best player again, which Hugo has been going on about for a while now, and Isagi admitted that it would help out the team a ton if he did that. But he knows that first off, it isn't what Ego wants for him, and that he doesn't want him to play a role like that. Also, the biggest reason is, of course, himself, as if he is going to live as the world's best striker, then he can't do that, and instead he needs to find a new logic, or rather a new theory, to defeat Hugo. With his own goal on top of that, it's not just enough for him to assist, but he is dead set on scoring his own goal. Now if you have any theories as to how he is planning to evolve, or what his new logic or theory will be, then please leave them down below because, seriously, I have no clue. I do however suspect that it might have something to do with what Barou said later on, as Barou came by and basically told Isagi that he was different and that he couldn't smell the goal scent coming from him at all, calling him useless and saying that he wasn't the king before he ran off looking for his next play. Now I can't seem to figure it out, but I just know that Isagi's new evolution has something to do with what Barou said right here, because it feels so strange to have this little conversation right away. Isagi said that he was going to evolve otherwise, something about him not smelling like a goal, but maybe still being able to put himself in that position to score without being noticed or something, maybe something like Kuroko from Kuroko no Basket, but I might just have that on my mind since I have been watching it lately. Moving on to KARASU, who actually had a pretty interesting conversation with Well himself. But anyway, I liked how he formulated himself and really explained everything. Also how he said that he was grateful to Ego for helping him come here, but still doubting his philosophy. Meanwhile, Hugo's philosophy hit him right in his chest. It was cool how he said that it was a choice for the future, where he doesn't have to give up his dream of being the world's best striker, as hearing that just gets me so excited to see what is going to come after. I also don't think that this goes against what Karasu had said earlier, and what his and Isagi's whole argument was about, since it doesn't feel like Karasu's goal is to strictly help the team, but rather to win in his own head against Isagi, as he thinks that if he can create a goal here, then he will beat him, and that is actually super awesome, and I have to admit that I am a big fan of it. With that, we also know that the ball is in the hands of Shidou, who I suspect will go right to the goal and actually score in the next chapter. I know that I have said that for like the last 3 chapters maybe, however this time I'm sure of it. But please let me know what you think will happen in the next chapter, and whether it will be a goal or not. Also, what you would rate this chapter. Personally, I would actually give this a solid 7 out of the 10. Anyway, if you like Blue Lock and videos like this, then I would highly suggest you subscribe to this channel, and while you are at it, leave a comment and a like. Also, if you can, hype the video down below, as it helps out with the algorithm a ton. And if you are curious to see another video of mine, then please watch the video that will be popping up on the screen now. Anyway, thanks for watching, and have a great day. Bye.